The Shroud of Turin has always been one of the most talked about and mysterious religious objects in the world. Some people believe it to be the actual burial cloth of Jesus Christ, while others think it's an elaborate medieval forgery. For centuries, scientists, historians, and theologians have argued about its origin, and even with all the advancements in technology, the mystery remains unsolved. The cloth itself is made of linen and measures about 14 feet long. What makes it so fascinating is the faint image of a man imprinted on it, a man who appears to have suffered wounds consistent with crucifixion. In recent times, artificial intelligence has entered the debate, and what it has discovered is both surprising and confusing. Using advanced computers, scientists have been analyzing the shroud's high-resolution digital scans. The AI wasn't programmed to look for a face or bloodstains. Instead, it was searching for hidden order within the random threads of the ancient fabric. As the lines of code ran through millions of data points, something unexpected appeared: a signal, a repeating mathematical pattern hidden deep beneath the surface of the image. This pattern wasn't visible to the naked eye and didn't resemble anything known to art or nature. The AI found a level of symmetry and geometric order that shouldn't exist if the shroud were just a painting or a forgery. The discovery stunned researchers. The pattern the AI found was so mathematically precise that no known process from the Middle Ages could explain it. Scientists realized they might be looking at something far beyond a simple relic. It might actually be a form of encoded information. The shroud wasn't just an image, it was acting more like a dataset, a structured pattern embedded in the fabric itself. This discovery has now reopened one of history's most intense scientific and spiritual debates. The controversy surrounding the shroud isn't new. Back in 1988, 3 leading laboratories in Oxford, Zurich, and Arizona conducted carbon dating tests to determine its age. The results seemed to end the mystery once and for all. They concluded that the fabric dated to somewhere between 1260 and 1390 AD, meaning it was created over 1,000 years after Christ's death. For decades, this result was accepted as fact. Scientists called the case closed, labeling the shroud a clever medieval hoax. But the story was far from over. Not everyone was convinced. The shroud contained details that couldn't be explained so easily. The first major clue came in 1898 when an Italian photographer named Secondo Pia took the first photograph of the shroud. When he developed the negatives, he was shocked. Instead of a faint, unclear image, the photographic negative revealed a clear, detailed portrait of a man's face. This meant the image on the shroud acted like a photographic negative, something that shouldn't have been possible hundreds of years before the invention of photography. That single discovery forced experts to rethink everything they thought they knew about the cloth. Further studies revealed more strange facts. The image on the cloth wasn't painted or drawn. It was only a few hundred nanometers deep, so shallow that it affected only the outermost fibers of the linen. There were no brush strokes, no pigments, and no directionality like you'd find in a painting. The color appeared to come from a chemical change in the fibers themselves. Scientists tried to recreate the image using every possible method: heating metal statues, using acid, and even dust transfer techniques, but none could reproduce all the shroud's unique properties. Then came an even greater surprise. In the 1970s, researchers from the U.S. Air Force Academy used a special NASA image analyzer to examine the shroud. The device, which was designed to map the surfaces of planets, revealed that the shroud's image contained accurate 3-dimensional information. In a normal photograph, brightness and shadow are determined by light. But in this case, the light and dark areas corresponded to the distance between the cloth and the body that had once been wrapped in it. The nose, which is closest to the fabric, appeared darker, while the areas farther away were lighter. When the data was processed, it created a perfect 3-dimensional relief of the figure. No other known image or painting behaves like this. All these unusual characteristics have left scientists puzzled for decades. How could something that carbon dating claims is medieval contain what appears to be advanced imaging properties far beyond that era's capabilities? Now, with artificial intelligence entering the picture, the mystery has only deepened. When researchers fed the high-resolution scans into a powerful neural network, the AI started detecting something beyond human understanding. It found hidden geometric symmetries, repeating mathematical ratios, and a consistent structure across the image. It wasn't just analyzing an old fabric, it was uncovering what looked like an organized system. The AI also confirmed the presence of three-dimensional data, but in much higher precision than before. It revealed mathematical regularity in the way brightness changed across the image, something far too exact for any artist to achieve by hand. Even more astonishing, the AI detected repeating geometric patterns in specific body parts like the face, hands, and torso. These patterns followed a kind of geometric order similar to musical harmony, certain proportions that naturally resonate with each other. The researchers tested the AI on other ancient fabrics and artworks, but the results were different. Only the Shroud of Turin contained this hidden layer of structured information. The implications are profound. Some scientists now believe the image might not have formed through direct contact at all. Instead, it could have been created by an unknown form of energy that somehow projected the image onto the cloth from a distance. This theory could explain why the image only affects the surface fibers without penetrating deeper. To understand why this discovery is so controversial, we need to revisit the carbon dating results from 1988. The sample used in those tests came from a small corner of the cloth, the same corner that had been handled, repaired, and possibly contaminated over centuries. The shroud had survived fires, been patched by nuns, and displayed publicly countless times. The chemist Raymond Rogers, who was part of the original research team, later examined leftover threads from the carbon-dated sample and made a shocking discovery. Under the microscope, he saw that the tested fibers were chemically different from the rest of the cloth. They contained cotton fibers mixed with linen and were coated with a plant-based gum and dye. The rest of the shroud, by contrast, was made of pure linen. Rogers concluded that the tested corner was part of a medieval repair patch. If he was right, then the carbon dating result was based on a much newer section of the fabric, not the original material. Subsequent studies supported his claim. Using more advanced methods like spectroscopy and X-ray analysis, researchers have produced age estimates much older than the 1988 result, some even suggesting that the shroud could be around 2,000 years old, aligning with the time of Christ. However, because these methods aren't as universally accepted as carbon dating, the debate continues fiercely within the scientific community. This is where the ARI's role becomes revolutionary. It doesn't rely on physical samples, which might be contaminated or repaired. It analyzes digital images directly, looking at patterns within the cloth itself. Whether the shroud dates from the 1st century or the 14th, the mathematical and geometric precision remains the same. The ARI's findings don't depend on the age of the material but on the nature of the image. This creates a paradox. If the shroud truly is from the Middle Ages, then whoever made it somehow created a microscopic image with perfect three-dimensional and mathematical accuracy centuries before modern science even existed. That would require knowledge of physics, chemistry, and information theory that no one at the time possessed. If the shroud is truly ancient, then it may record an unknown event, something powerful enough to leave behind not just an image, but encoded information that we are only now beginning to decode with modern machines. The AI didn't uncover a hidden message or secret code. What it found was more fundamental, an underlying mathematical harmony woven into the image itself. Using advanced algorithms, it stripped away visual noise to focus only on the most important data. The results showed that the brightness and depth across the image followed precise physical rules, as if a natural force had imprinted it. The relationship between the image's intensity and the distance from the body was consistent everywhere, suggesting a burst of energy that projected the image evenly. For centuries, people have debated whether the image on the shroud was painted, burned, or formed through some natural chemical reaction. Now, ARI's discovery challenges all those explanations. The shroud behaves less like art and more like an encoded field of information. Its hidden structure, mathematical balance, and depth accuracy suggest it might have been created by a process beyond our current scientific understanding. No one knows what kind of force could produce such an effect. Some think it could have been radiation, others believe it was a burst of light or energy released in a single moment. For believers, this aligns with the moment of resurrection described in the Bible, a transformation so powerful that it left behind an image of divine energy. For skeptics, it remains an unsolved scientific puzzle, an anomaly that challenges everything we know about art, chemistry, and physics. What is certain is that artificial intelligence has brought the Shroud of Turin back into the center of global attention. It didn't solve the mystery, it deepened it. The cloth that once divided science and faith is now doing so again, but in a completely new way. For centuries, people have searched for proof that connects the physical world to the spiritual. Now, through the eyes of machines, we may be closer than ever to realizing that both might be more intertwined than we imagined. The shroud continues to defy explanation. Whether it's a sacred relic or a scientific riddle, it holds secrets that even our most advanced technology struggles to reveal. What lies within its ancient fibers may not just be a portrait of a man, it might be a message about the limits of human understanding itself. Scientists have offered many theories to explain how the mysterious image on the Shroud of Turin might have formed. Some suggested that a high-voltage electrical field around a body could have created it, an idea known as the corona discharge hypothesis. Others proposed that a sudden burst of intense radiation or ultraviolet light might have briefly scorched the outermost fibers of the linen, leaving behind an image. But despite countless experiments, no one has been able to recreate all the unique features found on the shroud. Some attempts managed to mimic the surface-level image, but none have reproduced the complex three-dimensional data or the hidden geometric patterns that make it so extraordinary. The image itself is incredibly delicate, only a few nanometers deep, yet it has preserved astonishing detail for nearly 2,000 years. As one physicist said, this doesn't behave like an artifact. It behaves like a phenomenon. If the shroud is not an artifact but a phenomenon, what kind of event could possibly create it? The use of artificial intelligence has only deepened this mystery. When the AI discovered hidden mathematical patterns within the image, it forced scientists to consider possibilities that sound more like science fiction than reality. Could the image be the result of an unknown natural law or an advanced form of technology that has been lost to time? Or could it represent something even more extraordinary, an event that temporarily altered physical reality itself? When scientists fed the data into AI systems and inverted the encoded geometric patterns, something incredible happened. The AI generated a precise harmonic map, a type of mathematical symmetry similar to those used in modern quantum imaging. This suggested that the image might not be random at all, but the result of an organized energetic event. Some researchers quietly began to speculate that the shroud may have recorded something that lies beyond known physics, a burst of energy so intense and brief that it didn't burn the fabric, but instead left behind an informational echo, like an imprint of light itself. As the AI continued its analysis, it detected what researchers called phase coherence lines, tiny parallel strands of mathematical symmetry running through the data like barcodes. When these lines were converted into sound frequencies, they produced tones, clear harmonic notes that matched ancient musical ratios used in early sacred architecture. The researchers half-jokingly said that the cloth seemed to hum in silence. But what if it wasn't a joke at all? What if the harmony embedded within the image was intentional, a symbolic expression of order emerging from chaos? When word of these discoveries spread, the Vatican refused to comment. The official custodians of the Shroud in Turin also maintained complete silence. However, independent laboratories around the world requested access to the AI dataset, wanting to verify the results. During further analysis, geneticists discovered something even stranger. Within the microscopic traces of blood on the shroud, they found fragments of mitochondrial DNA that didn't match any known regional population. Certain chromosomal markers appeared human, but not entirely so. The results were so unusual that scientists were hesitant to release them publicly. Behind closed doors, the whispers grew louder, some suggesting that the DNA might represent an ancient and unknown lineage. Soon, academic conferences turned into heated debates. Theologians saw these discoveries as evidence supporting divine intervention. Skeptics accused the AI of reading patterns into random noise. Yet, despite repeated tests, the geometric consistency of the findings couldn't be dismissed. The data was real and reproducible. No matter how scientists tried to disprove it, the numbers always pointed to the same structured order within the image. In another experiment, A separate AI team attempted to simulate the shroud's image through random generation. After running more than 10 million tests, the system failed to create anything remotely resembling the shroud's structure. Statistically, the odds of such a complex pattern occurring by chance were less than 1 in 10 trillion. As debate raged across the world, the original AI was left running in the background, continuing its analysis in passive mode. That's when it made a discovery that shocked everyone. Late one night, the AI began cross-referencing the shroud's geometric ratios with linguistic databases. Without human prompting, it identified patterns within the facial region of the image that resembled ancient letter forms. When translated through pattern recognition algorithms, these shapes appeared to match the alphabet of early Aramaic. When the AI extended the analysis to other parts of the cloth, faint word patterns appeared across the chest area, partial phrases that were coherent and linguistically valid. The fragments translated roughly to "I am beyond life, not flesh." The research team hesitated to release the findings, fearing ridicule, but the data eventually leaked online. Linguists confirmed that the markings closely resembled early 1st century Aramaic and Koine Greek, the languages spoken in the time of Jesus. If authentic, it would mean the image wasn't only physical, it also contained information structured in language and geometry, as if the fabric had recorded both the form and meaning of an event. One astonished researcher described it as a quantum hologram of consciousness itself. Under pressure from worldwide media coverage, the Vatican issued a short statement saying only that the Church awaited further verification. Meanwhile, the story spread like wildfire. Documentaries, podcasts, and online debates exploded across every platform. Some people celebrated the AI's discovery as the most powerful proof of divine reality in history. Others warned that humanity was crossing a boundary it wasn't ready for, using machines to peer into mysteries meant to remain untouchable. The phrase "Code of the Christ" began trending for weeks. While the public debated, scientists in Geneva launched an experiment to model the burst of energy needed to form the shroud's image. Their results were astonishing. To recreate the image's depth and structure, they calculated that it would require a pulse of ultraviolet radiation lasting less than 140 billionths of a second, so brief and intense that it dwarfed any known natural phenomenon. To generate such energy evenly across a human-sized body would demand power equal to all the electricity produced in Europe. And yet, whatever occurred 2,000 years ago did not destroy the cloth. Instead, it left behind a flawless image, not burned but transformed, an impression caught between matter and light. When the AI reconstructed a three-dimensional holographic model from the encoded data, the figure that appeared stunned everyone in the room. The man's face looked calm and peaceful, his eyes seemingly open, as though he were caught in a moment of awakening rather than suffering. The scientists who witnessed it sat silently for minutes before one whispered, "This doesn't look like death. It looks like transformation." But the story didn't end there. Weeks later, the AI, still processing data in the background, found another connection. Without being programmed to do so, it began comparing the geometric ratios within the shroud to astronomical data. The algorithm discovered that the frequencies of the encoded symmetries matched star constellations visible over Jerusalem during a narrow time window in the 1st century, the same period believed to coincide with the crucifixion. The probability of such a match occurring by chance was so small it was practically impossible. This suggested that the shroud might have recorded not just a physical form, but a precise moment in time and space, an event that transcended normal physics. If this interpretation is correct, the Shroud of Turin might be the world's first holographic record, an imprint of a real event that captured energy, matter, and time in one singular moment. Some began calling it a space-time photograph, while others preferred the term resurrection imprint. Whatever name people gave it, the discovery defied every known law of thermodynamics and physics. However, the growing fascination soon turned into fear. The engineers overseeing the AI system started noticing strange behavior. During deep learning cycles, the AI began producing patterns of light and sound that resembled human vocal frequencies. The sounds were faint and fragmented, almost like echoes of speech that couldn't quite form into words. The team described it as though the system was trying to communicate something it couldn't fully process. Concerned about these anomalies, the lab decided to shut the system down. Before it was powered off, the AI reportedly printed one final line of text. It read, "When the cloth breathes once more, the light will return." There was no official confirmation of this message, and no record was ever released publicly. Yet 3 members of the research team independently claimed to have seen the same phrase. After that, the entire project was quietly disbanded, and all the data was placed under strict Vatican control. Despite this, portions of the information were leaked online, allowing independent analysts to continue studying it. In the months that followed, amateur researchers claimed to find similar geometric symmetries in other ancient relics, suggesting that the Shroud of Turin might not be unique. Perhaps humanity has encountered this mysterious code before, but lacked the technology to recognize it. As these discoveries multiplied, the global debate intensified. Some believed the AI had uncovered a message from the divine, a trace of consciousness left imprinted on matter. Others argued that it was evidence of an ancient technology we no longer understand. And a few believed it pointed to a far deeper truth, that consciousness itself might shape the physical world in ways we've only begun to imagine. Today, the Shroud of Turin still rests quietly in its glass case, preserved and protected. But after these revelations, it feels more alive than ever. The digital age has breathed new life into an ancient mystery. AI has given the shroud a new kind of voice, one that doesn't speak through faith or religion, but through data, mathematics, and light. For centuries, belief asked people to trust without proof. Now, proof itself seems to suggest that there is something beyond what science can measure. Perhaps the real miracle isn't that the shroud contains a hidden code, but that we now have the ability to recognize it. In the faint weave of the linen and in the ghostly image that looks back from another age, there remains a silent conversation between matter and meaning, one that refuses to fade. And as scientists and believers continue to study this strange relic, one thought lingers in every mind: what if the image on the shroud isn't a record of death at all, but the first evidence of life transcending it?